This is something I couldn't pull off. I know the race mod for Sins of a Solar Empire has more interesting ships I could have used for the video, on top of having more variety, but I'm struggling to actually play it. I like it, but it's taking longer than I need to get material for a video. Maybe doing a few shorts would be easier. That sounds great. Maybe I'll do that. I hope you don't put it off too long.
Release the hounds.
Spaceships in science fiction are one of the most important and standout elements within their works or franchises. From the Star Destroyers of Star Wars, the Cathedral ships of Warhammer 40,000, the Covenant ships from Halo, and many more, they're fundamental to their universes, even though most of the stories and events take place on the ground or focus solely on the protagonists. In this video, we'll be looking at the ships of the Asgard from Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis. Asgard ships are pretty unique in their universe. They possess extremely powerful ion weaponry and shields far superior to those of every other faction, until Anubis acquired part of the Ancients' knowledge. They can take on multiple Goa'uld ships and win even when outnumbered. The primary function of Asgard ships is exploration and scientific study. In other words, they're flying laboratories with guns. Yeah, that was a bad description. Something very unusual and characteristic about Asgard ships was the number of crew members needed for navigation and maintenance. Maximum, however many fit. Minimum, 1. Yes, just 1, since all systems were automated. The central computer manages life support, shields, engines, and repairs, as well as combat simulations or analysis during their scientific expeditions. That's how efficient they were. It also helps that the Asgard weren't numerous enough to spare losing them, which is why they don't have smaller ships like frigates or starfighters. As I said, they're not a war-oriented race and always look for the fastest way to end a conflict, whether through diplomacy, their technology, or destroying the enemy as quickly as possible. On top of that, they have neutrino ion generators, which are the main power source for their fleet. Unlike the Naquadah reactors used by the Goa'uld or humans, Asgard generators provide a nearly inexhaustible and massive supply of energy necessary to keep ship systems running, shields, engines, etc. It's unknown exactly how these generators work. Another thing they have are stasis pods, which are vital for them during travel or emergency situations. If a ship suffers catastrophic damage or travels distances that exceed standard life support, the crew, or the single crew member, enters suspended animation. These pods not just preserve the Asgard until they reach their destination or are rescued, but they're also directly connected to the ship's central computer, allowing the Asgard to remain conscious in a virtual environment or oversee the ship while their bodies rest. Also, one of the most important features is the matter synthesizers. Using the same technology that makes their famous transport beam possible, Asgard ships can assemble objects, tools, nutrients, and even repair parts out of pure energy. If a conduit breaks, the automated systems, or the operator, can simply synthesize a replacement, or take the damaged piece and rematerialize it already repaired. And most importantly, the neural interface. Latest generation ships respond largely to their commander's neural interface. And Asgard's exceptionally developed brain can passively connect to the ship's computer, allowing actions like beaming or weapons deployment to be carried out almost at the speed of thought. Another technology included in Asgard ships is the Asgard transporters, also known as beaming technology, an advanced transport system created by the Asgard and later given to the Tauri. Any matter targeted by an Asgard transporter is enveloped in bright light and broken down into its basic atoms, which are then transported to a designated location and reassembled. Unlike ring transporters, which require platforms at both the origin and destination locations, an object beamed by an Asgard transporter can be teleported to and from anywhere as long as the target is within range of a beam emitter and sensors capable of detecting it. All Asgard ships are equipped with this technology, frequently used to travel between ships and planets in a short amount of time. The Asgard have used it on numerous occasions to beam humans aboard their ships, often without warning. This technology represents a major tactical advantage in combat and is also extremely useful for their society in general. Beyond individuals and small objects, Asgard transporters are capable of beaming large quantities of matter, even an entire army. They also included cloaking technology. The Asgard use invisibility devices that attach to an individual's body and are then activated. These devices were used by inhabitants of planets protected by the Asgard to hide from enemies. The Asgard also employed sophisticated cloaking technology on their scout ships, Bill Skirner-class vessels, and possibly other ships in the fleet to hide their presence from all kinds of scanning devices, including radar. The Tauri had no way of detecting their presence, which suggests they may have also been capable of visual cloaking, though this is never clarified in the show. Many flagship vessels carry storage banks of blank cloned bodies, along with the equipment needed to transfer a dying Asgard's consciousness into a new body. This eliminates the need for traditional medical facilities. Related to this, the consciousness transfer device is an advanced memory storage technology used by the Asgard. As each Asgard's body begins to fail, they transfer their consciousness into a cloned body, thereby achieving a form of immortality. During the evacuation of Hala, many Asgard minds were placed into consciousness transfer devices and kept in a stasis state during the journey. A unique and rarely explored feature is the explosion suppression system. Asgard ships possess an unknown system that prevents explosions from occurring inside the ship. This renders many of the tactics used against Goa'uld ships from the inside, grenades, C4, and nuclear devices, completely useless against Asgard vessels. It stands to reason that this technology isn't limited to their fleet and is likely standard across all Asgard facilities. Finally, Asgard ships possess sensors, hyperdrive engines, communications, and shields that are standard across their fleet. Though being designed by the Asgard, they are obviously highly advanced. Now let's move from the scientific and technological aspects of Asgard ships to the part I'm sure most of you were waiting for: their armament. The most well-known weapon, and the one that best demonstrates the military potential the Asgard could have achieved, and thankfully never fully developed, is the following: Asgard Plasma Beam Weapon. Unlike most naval energy weapon systems, which are designed to fire individual energy pulses, the Asgard Plasma Beam is a narrow, high-intensity beam of superheated plasma. These beams are capable of overloading and penetrating even the most advanced shields, burning through the hull and internal structures of enemy ships with relative ease, and causing severe damage. If the beam strikes a critical area, it can destroy the target in just 2 or 3 shots. This incredible space combat weapon could be one of the most powerful and efficient ever seen. In terms of effectiveness, Asgard plasma weapons are among the few known systems capable of penetrating the shields of Ori warships, destroying them in 5 or 6 hits. The shields begin to fluctuate after 2 impacts, showing they are being depleted, and fail after 3 or 4, leaving the ship suffering heavy damage. For reference, the combined fire of an entire fleet, including 10 Free Jaffa Nation Hatak motherships, 3 Lucian Alliance Hataks, 2 Tauri BC-304s, and 1 Asgard O'Neill-class ship, using conventional weaponry, could not penetrate the shields of an Ori warship. These weapons also proved extremely effective at destroying unshielded Asuran Aurora-class battleships in just a few hits, and Wraith Hive ships in only 3 impacts. Additionally, the power of these weapons appears to be adjustable. 2 shots from a BC-304 were enough to disable a Wraith cruiser without destroying it. Ion cannons were the primary weapons of the Asgard fleet before the introduction of plasma weapons. Asgard weapons are significantly superior to those of most other races in the universe. The energy weapons of a single, already aging Bill Skirner-class ship were capable of destroying multiple Goa'uld Hatak motherships. These weapons lost some effectiveness after Anubis upgraded his own ships, having gained knowledge during his ascension to improve both shields and weaponry. However, the weapons and shields of the more advanced O'Neill-class Asgard ships were vastly superior to those of any Goa'uld vessel. These cannons were used effectively against replicator ships. Nevertheless, 4 Ori warships proved capable of withstanding the fire of a single O'Neill-class ship during the Battle of P3Y229, or the Supergate. The technology used in these weapons was a closely guarded secret by the Asgard, who refused to equip any Tauri ships with it. Later, Ion cannons became obsolete with the arrival of Asgard plasma weapons, which were installed on the Odyssey when the Asgard upgraded the ship. Unlike ion cannons, plasma weapons were capable of penetrating even the strongest shields, including those of Ori warships and Aurora-class battleships. However, the plasma weapons proved ineffective against the Superhive during the Battle of the Superhive. Despite its primarily peaceful role, the Asgard science vessel is one of the most sophisticated ships in the entire Asgard fleet. While it is not designed for direct frontline combat and isn't well suited to face battleships or fighter swarms without escort, it is equipped with powerful heavy ion cannons, capable of destroying large structures such as gold hattocks in just a few shots, although they are less effective against replicator blocks due to their lower kinetic energy component. In terms of propulsion, it features three main systems: an anti-gravity drive for omnidirectional maneuvers, a sublight engine for atmospheric flight and extreme speeds in normal space, and an intergalactic hyperdrive capable of crossing the Milky Way in just a few hours. Its hull is constructed from an advanced alloy of naquadah, carbon, and trinium, similar to the one used in their most modern warships, making it a highly resilient structure capable of withstanding extreme conditions even without active shields. What truly sets it apart from the rest of the fleet are its powerful sensors, capable of detecting life on planets from great distances, and its extensive scientific laboratories designed for field research and experimentation. It is, in essence, the perfect ship for what the Asgard do best: exploring and understanding the universe, although its appearances in the series are quite rare. The Bilskirnir class, also known as the Asgard Mothership, was the primary ship used by the Asgard fleet at the height of their power. Measuring approximately 4,600 feet in length, it featured an unmistakable hammer-shaped design with lateral wings and a grayish hull. These vessels were among the largest ships ever built, far bigger than any Tauri or Goa'uld capital ship. They were powered by 4 neutrino-ion generators capable of producing a maximum output of 1 billion Earth kilojoules, vastly surpassing the naquadah generators used by other races. They could cross the galaxy in a matter of minutes and even travel through intergalactic space, although their speed was reduced if towing another vessel through hyperspace. However, they had one important limitation. They relied on an internal subspace field to keep their systems operational, meaning they were incapable of surviving an uncontrolled atmospheric re-entry. Their main armament consisted of forward-firing ion cannons, more than enough to take on multiple standard Goa'uld Hattok motherships, until Anubis began upgrading his ships with ancient knowledge, making their shields resistant to this type of weapon. Their shields were extremely powerful, capable of withstanding even the shock waves from ships detonating at a distance. However, they had one weakness. They could not protect the ship from explosions already inside the shield bubble and close to the hull. To compensate for this, they were equipped with an explosion suppression system that dampened any internal detonations, rendering grenades, C4, or nuclear devices used by boarding parties largely useless. They also featured cloaking technology that didn't distort their visual appearance, but made them invisible to primitive scanning devices. Internal sensors were extraordinarily precise, capable of detecting movement inside the ship in case of boarding, including thermal sensors that could track warm-blooded organisms even if the main sensors were disabled. Notable fact: the replicators learned to infest the bridge specifically to disable these sensors and remain undetected. They were equipped with 12 Asgard transporter arrays positioned in different directions for maximum coverage. These were not only used for moving personnel and resources, but also as a non-lethal tactical tool. They could disarm enemy troops on the surface and beam them directly into detention cells aboard the ship, or return them to their home planets through the Stargate. The central transporter matrix was located in the computer core. If it was destroyed, the transporters would be permanently disabled throughout the entire ship. The bridge of the Bilskirnir class served as the main command center. It resembled a large pillar of light surrounded by multiple elevated platforms from which the crew commanded the vessel, and it housed the navigational computer. The computer room complemented the bridge. From its terminals, it was possible to monitor the crew's progress throughout the ship, detect internal threats, manipulate the transporter matrix using control stones, and activate Asgard holography to communicate with others on distant planets. Their primary mission was to defend the planets protected under the Protected Planets Treaty against the Goa'uld Empire, patrolling and acting as guardians over those worlds. During the war against the Replicators, many Bilskirnir-class ships were pulled back to the Ida system to join the fight, leaving several protected planets vulnerable. It was precisely the Replicator threat that accelerated the development of the more powerful O'Neill class, which eventually pushed the Bilskirnir into a secondary role. The O'Neill class was the most advanced warship in the entire Asgard fleet, and the first series of ships designed exclusively to combat the Replicators. Named in honor of Jack O'Neill of the Tauri, these vessels surpassed the Prometheus, BC-304, and Hatak classes in both size and firepower. With this class, the Asgard weren't just looking to replace the Bilskirnir. They were making a complete technological leap forward against threats the previous class could no longer handle. The O'Neill class maintains the classic Asgard aesthetic: smooth, curved lines, parallel projections, and the unmistakable hammer-shaped hull. It differs from the Bilskirnir mainly in its more curved and bulbous bow design. The stern houses two engines with visibly glowing thrusters, similar to its predecessor. Despite its enormous size, the O'Neill class is extraordinarily maneuverable. This was clearly demonstrated during the Battle of P3Y229, where it was seen performing sharp high-speed turns and close-quarters combat tactics. It was the only ship in the Allied fleet that was not confirmed as damaged or destroyed in that battle, thanks to its overwhelming superiority over the Hataks and BC-304s. The Asgard developed a new alloy composed of naquata, trinium, and carbon, the strongest material they had ever created, specifically for the hull of these ships, making it extremely resistant to both conventional projectile weapons and energy-based attacks. The hyperdrives of the O'Neill class were possibly the fastest ever built. They proved capable of traveling between the Ida and Milky Way galaxies in just a few hours. As a reference, they towed the Prometheus back to Earth orbit across 1,200 light-years in mere seconds, and later transported it to the Ida galaxy in less than a day, despite the added mass of the Tauri vessel. The shields of the O'Neill class were among the most powerful ever designed. They could withstand multiple hits from both the main energy beam and the secondary pulse weapons of an Ori warship, weapons that could destroy Hataks with just one or a few shots, no small feat. It was armed with 4 powerful ion cannons, 2 visible on the ship's wings and 2 more in the bow, capable of retracting into the hull. These cannons were specifically designed to penetrate replicator ship shields and Anubis's upgraded Goa'uld shields. Their ion bolts had the ability to refract around a shield and strike a target multiple times. They were also the only known energy weapons capable of destroying replicator blocks through sheer kinetic force, something no other weapon system had achieved before. With 15 Asgard transporters on board and powered by neutrino ion generators, the O'Neill class represented the pinnacle of centuries of Asgard engineering. Only the Ori warships, built with ascended knowledge, proved to be a true match for them. Even then, the only time an Ori warship defeated an O'Neill-class ship, it did so with a 4-to-1 numerical advantage. And with that, we conclude this important look at the Asgard ships of Stargate. I know I left out the Vanir from the Pegasus Galaxy and the unique ship that appears in the series, but I'll save that for a future video. There's also a good chance that I'll make several shorts dedicated to the race mod for Sins of a Solar Empire, since it contains a lot of interesting material worth covering. I'm genuinely happy to continue making Stargate videos, even though the franchise has been dormant for years, and there have been attempts to turn the IP into something more generic. That won't take away my desire to keep creating this kind of content. In fact, I may end up revisiting some of my older ship videos, because at the time I focused too heavily on the Stargate Pegasus Chronicles mod and not enough on the deeper lore of the series itself. Thank you all for making it this far and for supporting the channel. Leave a comment, give the video a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and if you're just passing by, feel free to say, "Hi, I'm just stopping by." And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to share it. I'll see you in the next one. Until next time.